SuperTalk Mississippi media production.
The views and opinions expressed by the hosts, guests, and callers on this show are not the opinions of TeleSouth Communications, its management, or advertisers.
William Carey University Athletics.
Every sport you find exciting.
Crusader Talk.
Crusader Talk. And now,
This is Crusader Talk. Crusader Talk. We're covering everything William Carey University Athletics. From the field to the court and the diamond. On SuperTalk Hattiesburg 97.3 and SuperTalkHattiesburg.com.
And welcome, everyone, back to another edition of Crusader Talk. My name is Caleb Hamill. My co-host is Josh West, and behind the board for us this evening is Dalton Stanford, and we are looking forward to a fantastic view of all things William Carey Athletics because we're winding down that crossover time of year that we keep talking about, and that means one big thing, Josh. It just seems to always follow the Carey programs these days. That's championships.
Yeah, championship season.
How about championship season? Carey, over the past week, gathered up two different championships to their credit. One from women's indoor track and field, gathering an SSAC title, and the one that kind of shocked us, not because of the caliber of team that we're talking about, but because of all the different things that had to go a certain way in order to make it happen. But on the men's basketball front, because of other results outside of Carey's control, and in addition to the ones that were in Carey's control, the Crusaders are not only champions, they are outright champions in men's basketball. Just incredible.
Yeah, how good is that? How good is that? I think the one we didn't see coming was that Faulkner game in Mobile.
Right.
For Mobile to have stepped – and the fact that Carey had defeated Mobile so sound in Farr Gymnasium, just soundly defeated them. The last 12 and a half minutes of that game just felt like garbage time against a very good team, and it left us wondering what's going on in Mobile. I think we got to give more credit than we realize to the Crusaders.
Yeah, certainly could. And just looking back at this, I mean, this is a Mobile team. It's 8-20 on the year. They were 7-20 going into that game against Faulkner earlier back on Saturday, and the results kind of show that they really haven't had it together this year. All 8 wins though of theirs came in conference play, so may have been trying to figure out their stride at the right time. Now, granted, you also have to take into account they had a slew of forfeits at the beginning of the year. Did not hear the story there, and you may know about that one, Josh, but games played prior to November 25th, they had to forfeit all those, which kind of skews the record. So maybe that's why it's easy to overlook Mobile when you also factor in what Carey did on the floor against them, 94-72. But, yeah, what a shocker. And Carey, not only with that, also the result of the Tennessee Southern game was so big for the Crusaders, and then you finish it up with that win at home against Blue Mountain. Just a terrific series of events for Carey to win it outright.
Well, indeed it was. And, when you think about, and we'll talk to Coach Knight in the next couple of segments about this, you're down by 22 points in the first half to Tennessee Southern, and you've only scored 8 points in almost 12 minutes to start the game. And yet you find a way to get it to 5 before the half. They hit a buzzer beater to go up 7 at intermission. And then you come out in the second half and completely dominate, lead by as many as 20, and then win that game going away by 15. It was probably the best game I've ever had a chance to call. Yeah. And that's a lot of basketball. And that's not hyperbole. That's truth. I mean, a 42-point turnaround in a little over 20 minutes of basketball. Remarkable.
Yeah, and not only a turnaround of those 20 points, but an outright shellacking down the stretch. I mean, Tennessee Southern couldn't throw it in the ocean after a while. Once Carey had just surmounted that comeback, it was just deflating moving forward.
Yeah, I mean, not only so Carey comes out a little flat for whatever reason, and Tennessee Southern can't miss. And you can go back and pull the audio. I made the comment, I said, look, we've blown 20-point leads before. Maybe not fully, but maybe we've had a 20-point lead in Carey, and then you look up and it's a 6-point game. because all that is 3 or 4 trips where you may take bad shots, you miss, and they come down and hit threes or get some and ones, and all of a sudden 12, 14 points evaporate. So I said, hey, look, we've been on the other side of this. Let's see if for this game we can flip the script and maybe get it to 10 at the half. Well, Coach Knight, little did I know, was telling the team the same thing, and we'll hear from that coming up. Well, they get it to 10 at the media. He said, okay, let's half it again. Let's see if we can get it to 5. And they did. And so despite that buzzer beater, Carey had all the momentum. They had done everything that Coach asked them to do from that point moving forward. And an interesting caveat that I don't know if Coach would mention is that Malik Franklin kind of embodied in a moment the frustration on the team, and he picked up a silly technical. Just pushed a kid that was kind of tumbling over at half court, right almost on the center of the WCU logo, almost on top of Coach Knight's signature on the floor. And Coach Knight's leaned back in the chair, arms crossed, jaw clenched, shaking his head. And he's pleading that he was grabbing him. And he said, it doesn't matter. That's stupid. Can't do that. He was so embarrassed that he comes out and hits back-to-back-to-back threes. And he lit a fire in him, and it lit a fire in the rest of that team. So in the moment, you didn't know just how pivotal that technical foul was going to be. Sometimes a technical foul can turn the game the other way, right. But in this time, it turned it in Carey's favor.
That's incredible. All right, so we will get to talk to Coach Knight about all things relating to last week and also a preview ahead of the SSAC tournament coming up. But a couple other things to get to. Since we're talking about basketball, let's just address the elephant in the room of women's basketball right now. Just a rough go of it in the final weeks of the season. Just haven't had the right pieces healthy as they've tried to go down the stretch. And unfortunately, it's just resulted in some bad losses here at the end of the regular season.
Yeah, I mean, you had Mia Dole out in a boot. So I think she was kind of nursing an ankle, tweaks the other ankle. She's in a boot. So your backup and your starter, in a sense, for Chenille out. And then Leah Sutton picks up 3 fouls in the second quarter, first half, by the second quarter. Picks up her 4th on a call that the entire scores table went, wait, what, you called that on 23, not 42? Mackenzie Williams, the very talented, very strong post player who came down and landed actually on the back of Leah, laying face down on the floor. Foul was on Leah. Leah comes off the floor and has commentary to that effect. And all she said was, you could hear it. She said, how are you going to call that on me? How are you going to call that on me? Teed her up. That was her 5th. She was done.
That's awful.
With 16-plus minutes left in the game. And so Leah Sutton, as you know, that's a starter / 6th player, one of the leaders of the team. In a lot of games, she's the McKeem Roberts of the ladies. And what I mean by that is points, rebounds, assists, steals. She does it all. And so you lose her. And then once Blue Mountain got rolling on Saturday, I mean, they got hot in a stretch and put that game away again. And for the second game in a row, Carey's in the ballgame through 2.5 quarters, and then it gets away big time in the third. And it got away worse in the third on Saturday than it did on Thursday. So it was tough. And, they've been there in the tournament as the undefeated number 1 seed. And so as I mentioned to the ladies, I said, hey, let's go in as the underdog. Let's go in on a little bit of a skid with no expectations and get hot next week and win the whole thing. And they're going in needing a fresh start. They need a reset. So I think it's going to be great for them.
Yeah, it really could be. Also, baseball on the weekend, they were able to sweep Williams Baptist. Let's be frank, a really bad Williams Baptist team out of Arkansas. Carey's able to win in the second game 23-2. Third game a 13-4 shellacking, and then edge them out 2-1 in a pitcher's duel in the final game Saturday. Some good performances in there. Altogether, not a lot you can take away from that, except you got some reps for some guys that don't always get the playing time. You use a lot of your depth in pitching just because of the sheer amount of innings you had to throw. But all in all, you get wins. That's more to your credit. And the Crusaders will have as far as the schedule is concerned, a midweek against Talladega, unless something changes there, before beginning conference play this coming up weekend against Abraham Baldwin, where Friday's game will begin at 2:30, with the second game of the doubleheader being at 6 o'clock, and a solo game on Saturday at 1 o'clock. At all of those at Milton Wheeler Field.
You know, you mentioned the 23-2 shellacking, and I just think it's funny. You know how in sport and in whatever it is, things tend to balance out, Caleb. Mm-hmm. And so I go from the high of highs of that amazing game on Thursday, and then the cold reality of 13-2 and then 17-2 after 3 innings, 13-2 after 2 innings. And that was the longest game of my life.
I mean, a 10-run second inning will do it to you.
There's no way to talk. What do you talk about? The game was over in the second inning. It was over.
That's how I was with the Alcorn State Mississippi State game on Wednesday.
Yeah. Yep. But you had a few more game notes and more familiarity, so I was in trouble, but I got through it.
Hey. And just like with the players, repetitions. You get to all kinds of different scenarios, and you get ready for them.
Yes.
All right, coming up next, Steve Knight, head coach of the men's basketball program, is waiting to join us in studio. Stay tuned. You're listening to Crusader Talk.
You're listening to Crusader Talk on SuperTalk Hattiesburg 97.3 and SuperTalkHattiesburg.com.
Moving right along here in Crusader Talk as we continue the basketball conversation, as we're joined in studio by head coach Steve Knight. Coach, this has been a terrific team that we've had the joy of following for the last several weeks, in fact months as a matter of fact, but I don't know that we had this week drawn up exactly how it played out, but we're glad it played out the way it did, because Cary gets to claim their first SSAC regular season title since, wasn't it the season y'all went to the 5-4?
No.
The one after that?
No,
or
before that.
Before that. Okay.
It was 17-18, I believe.
That's right. Okay. Now, did y'all win the conference tournament the year you went to the final site? Nothing.
No.
It was just all...
No. Just got hot.
Got
hot. Yeah.
Co-championship was Stillman.
Well, was it?
Right. Isn't that right? 18-19?
Yeah, that's right. Well, if you say so. I can't remember, Josh.
That's a good thing if you win so many you can't remember.
Somebody
that was about the time that Stillman joined the conference, if that was in my head right, because I remember they were pretty early on in their time in the SSAC when I called the games in 2020/21.
Yeah, they were awfully good. They were awfully good. You know, one of my managers asked me the other day, said, "Coach, how many championships is this for you?" I said, "I have no idea."
Got to go to the bio page.
I have no. That's exactly what I told him. I have no idea.
That's the only way I keep up with how many years you've been coaching. I just have to make sure. Kevin, have you added one since last year? Okay, we're good. This is right now. Well, and Coach, just thinking back, that 2017 and 2018 season, that was my first exposure to Cary. That was when I jumped into the PA chair about midway through the season. DJ had brought me in, as did Coach Halford, and got to do some of those games there courtside while David Sutton was on the call for radio stuff. But just thinking now about the high-power offense that these guys have, the speed and so much athleticism, it makes sense that they are now regular season champs outright. They had the makings of being that team, and when the regular season is finished, they proved it. They are the outright champions.
Right. We've played well all year long, and when you have to go on the road late in the season to a place like Dalton State or Faulkner, when they're playing well, it's awfully tough, and we dropped those two. But we turned it around against Mobile, which is another one that typically, they're playing well and late in the year, and it's a rivalry game, and we just played so well. We sort of buried that one pretty early, and that's probably our best overall game of the season. I think the game over at ABAC was another one that we played extremely well. And I told the guys going into Tennessee Southern Thursday, I said, look, we're getting ready for tournament time now. I said, we've got to build on what we started at Mobile, knowing full well that that probably was our best shot of the year, right, as a game. But we wanted to. And dadgum, if we didn't do it for about the last 26 minutes. We played better than we did at Mobile. And incredible comeback win, and then played well Saturday. I think the last 3 games we've made, 2 of the games we made 17 threes, and 1 game we made 18, or either 2 games with 18. I mean, we've been shooting it really well.
Yeah, really have been. Now, I want to hear for your side of the picture of what your experience was on Saturday. For those that were at home or may not have known the timeline of it all, Carey takes down Blue Mountain at home on Saturday, and then they're left to watch the final moments of the game between Faulkner and Mobile to see if Carey would be co-champions with Faulkner, or if Faulkner loses, Carey would become outright champions. Well, spoiler alert, you now know that Carey is the outright champion. But, Coach, where were you, and what was your perspective as you were following that game and finally found out that you would be the number 1 seed in the conference tournament?
Well, what I do after the horn sounds, I always go to the end of the bench so I can watch everything that you've seen the TV, with coaches getting into it and that sort of thing, and players maybe. So I kind of sit in the back. Assistant coaches go first, and I'll watch how the 2 teams and the coaches intermingle. And then so when I went toward the end of the bench, Makeem Roberts was back there with one of our managers, and he had a phone out. And I said, what are you doing? He said, Coach, Mobile's up. He didn't give me a score or anything. I said, oh, really? It was interesting. And so we got through the handshake line, and we're walking toward the locker room, and I can just see guys, they're stopping in the middle of the floor. Of course, it was senior day, and they had family there. And some of them were talking to their family members, and others they're all gathered around several different iPhones and just watching the game. Hey, it's 7, now it's down to 5 and whatever. I said, look, guys, let's get to the locker room. Let's talk for just a brief second, and we have to pray. We're not going – I'm not letting you go home without, praying like we always do. And it was the hardest thing getting them in the locker room. I mean, finally I said, okay, this is long enough. So I walked in there, and half the team was in the locker room. Well, what were they doing? They're looking at the phones.
Of course.
And they're hollering and screaming, yeah, they're going to get them. And then it tightened up, and here come the rest of the guys finally back there, and it tightens up. It gets from 7 all the way down to 1, and Mobile makes 2 free throws, so now it's 3. Faulkner had the last shot, and Mobile blocks it, and they just erupted. Our guys they were so happy. And I said, Coach, they said, Coach, can we cut down the nets? And I said, absolutely. And, of course, most everybody was gone by then. They didn't care. They were so happy to be outright champs and to have the number 1 seed in the conference tournament, because we just felt like we've played up to that standard all year long, and you never know what can happen. And it was a fun experience. They did not care if it was just us in the gym. There were some others, family lingering around and stuff, waiting on their kids, but they were so excited, and it made me excited for them, because I know how hard they've worked all year long from day one, and I know, they will always be a special team for me because of the health situation that I had this year, and I had to miss some practices, and I had to miss some games. And it was like they never wanted to let me down, whether I was there or not. They were going to keep the standards high, and the expectations of what we want from them, it didn't matter, and they just rolled on.
Well, Josh, you actually got to, in a way, call that final moment with Jenkins standing by watching it with you. that was kind of cool. I went back and listened to it. It was a fun clip.
Yeah, it was a fun clip because you can hear the moment. I can cue that up maybe in the next segment if we want to for just the little 30, 45 seconds. But, Coach, you mentioned how you said they didn't care if it was only them because they play for themselves. It's always been about this team, these guys playing for one another, their love for one another, and the love that they have for this coaching staff. And you heard the story in the last segment, Coach, when I said Malik was so disappointed in himself that he let you down on that technical. It lit a fire in him and the team. And again, they want to please this coaching staff.
They do, and I'm just so proud of them and their accomplishments. And we've really not had any problems from them all year long. There hasn't been one practice where a guy was late for any reason. I mean, none. And they get the work done, and they like to compete every day in practice. They get upset when the practice plan doesn't have them at least going 5 versus 5 for 15 minutes. They want to play. I mean, they just – and it doesn't matter what team they're on. They just want to compete, and that's a good reason why we ended up 25-3 in the regular season. Because you have to have a bunch of competitors, and we do.
So, got just a couple seconds left in this segment. So, where does this, with Carey taking the 1 seed, what time slot does that put Carey in for the tournament coming up?
Well, it puts us in the early evening, I think.
So not the 1 a.m. game that we played a couple years back?
Not the 1 a.m. or not the 10 o'clock in the morning. So it's a good time slot. It really is. And I think if you win, you play at 7 the next night. So it's a good slot.
Turns into a good primetime game. Yes. Who are the two opponents that will play one another to have a chance to face off against Carey?
It will be Tennessee Southern and Point.
Okay.
Number 5 from the West versus number 4 from the East.
Very nice. All right, we're talking with Coach Steve Knight, fresh off of an SSAC regular season championship for the men's basketball program. Josh is on the road today, but still on the horn remotely. We are finding a way to make technology work and do our bidding here on today's edition of Crusader Talk. Hey, if you miss any of our content, if you're joining us late on the radio side, you can always get it on demand. Just search for Crusader Talk wherever you get podcasts. If you're not a podcast person, you can download Spotify, the TuneIn app, Apple Podcasts, all kinds of different apps that serve up podcasts. And again, it's just that easy. Search Crusader Talk. You can find it there. It's also linked on the Carey Athletics website as well. All right, more conversation with Coach Steve Knight when we return on this edition of Crusader Talk. Stay tuned.
You're tuned in to Crusader Talk on SuperTalk Hattiesburg 97.3 and SuperTalkHattiesburg.com.
All right, third segment with you here on Crusader Talk. We continue to have a conversation with Coach Steve Knight. And, Coach, I don't know if you were around to hear this part of the broadcast because I know you were talking about the locker room environment whenever the final shot was blocked by Mobile's defense of Faulkner. It was just kind of a fun moment for anybody that was paying attention, and we are actually able to have that clip ready and standing by. Josh has it for us down the line, and so this is what the broadcast sounded like as they were watching that final play for us back there on Saturday.
We'll get your thoughts on that in a moment. Let's get Jamar around here to watch the end of this Mobile game. 86-83 Mobile, leading Faulkner. Pass comes into the backcourt to Faulkner. They'll race up the sidelines, looking for a 3 to tie. Mobile does not want to foul. A deep three blocked by Mobile. It's blocked by Mobile, and Mobile has knocked off Faulkner, and Carey are the regular season champions of the Southern States Athletic Conference. Jamar, I know you want to go celebrate, but you guys are cutting down nets today. What does this feel like?
Man, just a blessing. All glory to God.
Incredible. So, regular season champions, for you to have a 24-point game on senior day, what was that like?
Man, it's amazing. This is something I always wanted. Like, even when I was at Petal, at Holmes, I always wanted to try to get a regular season championship. But I finally made it happen this year, baby.
Absolutely. Jamar, go celebrate, and it's going to be a blast. Go celebrate as Coach Knight comes over.
All right, so that was Josh talking with Jamar Jenkins at the end of that one, where Cary won over Blue Mountain, but then the bigger result that secured Cary as the outright champions of Mobile, winning over Faulkner there on their home floor. So, man, just everybody excited, Jamar included.
Yeah, I didn't realize Jamar wasn't in the locker room with the rest of us. So he had a nice listen to that last few minutes there, and glad he was able to talk a little bit, gave glory to God, and Jamar, I'll say it, he's one of my favorites. I mean, he works so hard. He's a gym rat, and last year came off the bench and didn't quite understand. I told him, Jamar, I always want a good score coming off the bench. He averaged about 8 points a game on that team, and he stepped up. He's a starter this year, and what he has been able to do for us is, I've always said he's our best shooter. He is our best shooter when he takes the right kind of shots. And through the course of the season, he's gotten better at taking those kind of shots, and he's up to 43.9% from the three-point line, I believe it was. It is right now, and that's pretty good shooting.
Yeah, really is. Go ahead, Josh.
Yeah, Coach, I mean, you mentioned, Jamar and the guys on this team learning their roles, developing in their roles. And so the place you got to go talking about leading this team is Makeem Roberts. And I think from some conversations I've had, and I haven't had a ton of them, but there was, I'm sure multiple coaches that had this sentiment. I've talked to some that if Cary wins the league, Makeem Roberts is the player of the year in the league. And he leads the country in steals at better than 30 over number 2. And he averages, he's had a triple-double this year. I think if we played maybe a double overtime game, he'd have a quadruple-double if the scenario, was right. But Makeem Roberts is another one of those guys who came here to win a championship. And he's the guy that never says anything, just goes out and plays with his hair on fire, and is so much fun to watch.
Yeah, Makeem's been great. We had our Zoom call today on selection and nominations of the all-conference teams. And, I laid it on them pretty good. Of course, most of them know, particularly those in the West Division, how important he is and everything that he's accomplished this season. Set a school record so far. He'll get some more. Hopefully, he's got 109 steals, and it's just amazing. Dexter Pugh had 100, and that Dexter played in the 90s. So that record's 20-something years old, and McKean broke it. And I think he had his heart set on trying to do that this year. He wasn't worried about scoring. He wanted to lead the William Cary all-time and become the steal record leader, and he did that. And little story when he came in to work out, he and Jamar were there the same day, and PJ called me and said, "Coach, guys are here." So I come down, and they're just shooting and warming up with a bunch of our players and whatever, and came over, and I talked to him, and I said, McKean, what's the best part of your game? What do you like to do? What's your favorite position? That sort of thing. He looked dead at me and said, "Coach, I don't care. All I want to do is win." And he was telling the truth, because that's what he does. He played the 4 for us last year, 6 foot tall, playing the 4. Totally out of position, battled all year long, moved him to point guard this year. He's got a 3-to-1 assist-turnover ratio to go along with leading us in block shots, set a school record in steals, average double figures. I don't know what else he could do. It's been phenomenal.
Coach Knight, were you noticing the expressions on Gavin Shannon, the 6'7" post player for Blue Mountain? He had his shot blocked at least once.
Right.
And he was looking back towards his coach going, like, what just happened? How did that happen?
Yeah, Malik's arms are so long, but his anticipation is he's just sneaky, and he'd do that out in the open floor too. A guy will try to throw a pass up top, normal routine pass that's never stolen, and all of a sudden Malik would come out of nowhere and jump up and steal it. And it's just incredible what he does. I've never had anybody like him. I've had some good. Deron Bell's probably the best defender that I've had, and I used to just brag on Deron. But I think McKeem's got old Bell. I mean, McKeem does so much. But Deron Bell was a player of the year in our league, and first team All-American, and I'm sure hoping that happens for McKeem as well.
And just to quantify this for McKeem, you mentioned the record in steals that he's got. He's got 109 on the year, leader in the NAIA. Not by a slim margin either, by 33.
Wow.
Next closest guy has 76.
Wow.
This is across the entire country. 109 steals for McKeem Roberts this year. That's just unheard of.
Caleb, can I give you another stat real quick for Coach? And
Sure.
I've been talking to Kevin Rosary about this. If he stays on this pace for a few more games, he's got a chance to average more steals per game than anybody in the recorded history of the NAIA, because the all-time record holder was at 175, but he played 44 games, 3.9 steals per game.
Right.
For much of this season, McKeem has been at 4.
Right.
I said, if he averages 4 a game, Kevin, we've got to create a new category on the NAIA stats website, and McKeem Roberts' name's got to be on it at steals per game.
Right. Well,
a minimum 30 games
that
or
other
something.
kid had to play for Lipscomb or somebody. Lipscomb used to play 45 games a season back before they put a limitation on us. That's crazy. Yeah.
Yeah, 175, but 3.9 per.
He's
and
like
3.9 is what McKeem averages.
Yeah, he's 3.97, something like that. He's close to 4. So
right.
Just amazing. These guys, these 5 seniors, they're all starters. They've just done a phenomenal job. You've got McKeem and Jamar, who we've already mentioned. You got Randarius Hughes, who averages over 8 points and over 8 rebounds a game. And he doesn't even like to shoot that much. I think he gets a bigger kick out of throwing that cross court pass or inside out for a 3. And and then you've got Javion Gordon, who has improved so much since last year. Didn't really get a lot of minutes because of who we had. We had Dylan and Cam, who were first team all conference, and Ashton Campbell playing the wing positions. But Javion really showed us what he could do this year in shooting the basketball. And another guy with really long arms that can get a bunch of steals. And then, Anthony Robinson is kind of the guy that came in. Anthony, I think, has, he's got 100 assists this year from a 4-man. Now that doesn't happen very often.
Right.
I mean, I looked at the stats. I was trying to see how many McKeem had, and the next guy, he had 100. It's crazy. And Anthony, like I've told you before, he played point guard in middle school, and he really wants to be a point guard. So he's got those kind of skills, and everything's been put together, and it just has clicked. Basketball is definitely a chemistry sport.
I just looked this up, by the way. McKeem Roberts leads all four-year universities across NAIA and NCAA Divisions 1 through 3 so far to this point on the year.
That's crazy.
So
he's good at it.
He's good. All right, minute left. Walk us through what's on the horizon as you prepare for the SSAC tournament and beyond.
Yeah, we'll leave tomorrow, and we'll practice tomorrow night at Faulkner University. Good hour-and-a-half practice. Be probably our toughest practice of the week, and then Wednesday we'll practice again, get through, go eat, and then go watch Point and Tennessee Southern play, and then go back to the hotel. Banquets at 7 o'clock Wednesday evening, and then we'll get over there. We don't play we'll probably get to the gym the next day and watch a few games and
hey, get acclimated. Get
Yeah.
those guys acclimated because that is a tough gym to shoot in.
Yeah, and we worry about that. Tennessee Southern and Point, they'll have played a game in that gym. They also have a practice tomorrow, which we don't. We're not allowed in there, so it's going to definitely be an advantage. We got to get a lot of shots up and warm-ups for sure.
Yeah. It's always tough to play out there over at the Crampton Bowl. But, Coach, looking forward to seeing how the rest of the season goes. Sky's the limit. You've been at a high level before. Y'all can get them back there as well.
Yeah, if we can play our style, if we can get up and down the floor and create a lot of steals and that the defense turn into offense, we can be pretty good. So I'm hoping our guys will just settle down and play hard and get the job done.
All right. He is Steve Knight joining us here on Crusader Talk. Coach, thanks so much. Let's do it again.
Yes, sir. Thank you. Thank you, guys. Y'all do a great job.
All right.
Thanks,
one final
Coach.
segment coming up for you next here on Crusader Talk.
Talking everything William Carey University athletics. This is Crusader Talk on SuperTalk Hattiesburg 97.3 and SuperTalkHattiesburg.com.
All right, wrapping it up with you here on Crusader Talk on this Monday evening. Whew. Josh, I'm excited. I'm excited for you to get to go out and do a couple basketball games and maybe even some more as the season continues on into the postseason.
Caleb, I was just thinking about the sales pitch that Steve Knight put on that group on that Zoom call.
Mm-hmm.
Are you going to deny Steve Knight, one of his stars players, at this point? I don't think so.
No.
I think they're buying what he's selling, and I think Makeem Roberts is going to be Player of the Year in the league. He deserves it. He deserves it. This is our pitch. This is our sales pitch. You heard it rehashed. I mean, he's special. His block shot right before the half at Dalton State, I had to go back and apologize because of the context of the game and the flow of the game at that moment. It was so shockingly good that I undersold it because it surprised me. It caught me off guard. And I had to go back and say, that was one of the best block shots I've ever seen. What did I just see? It was in the open floor one-on-one at the rim, and he reached back and cleanly blocked the shot in front of the rim and did not foul. I mean, that's the kind of things that Makeem does every game. Every game. It's tremendous.
Yeah. Just some special talent on this team, really. I don't know how to describe it to those that have not been able to see it in person or maybe watch it online, but the athletes, the athleticism as a team that they're able to put together is just a treat to watch, start to finish. They are just fun. And that honestly is what you love in a team that you can follow, is seeing the fun and the personality shining through. And this team has got skill and personality to match.
Well, Jamar Jenkins found a clip. He said, Josh, did you realize you called Makeem's game when he was in high school at Meridian? I said, I don't even remember that. And so he pulls out his phone. He goes, look. And it's like on Instagram or something. He said, you called Makeem the silent assassin. And here's the funny part. As you know about those telecasts, the play-by-play guy picks the feature player.
Mm-hmm.
So I am so thankful that in my youthful, that I was not dumb enough to pick Makeem Roberts, the best player on that Meridian team, to feature him, because he was and he is. And I don't know what I particularly saw then. I don't know if it was just the overall body of work of his numbers that was like, hey, everybody else may be talking about this guy or this guy, but this is the guy. And you call so many games, you forget. And so that was pretty neat to see. And my joke to Jamar was, I said, see, Jamar, you didn't realize I was everywhere, did you? I'm everywhere.
He's got to play at a championship level.
I like messing with Jamar. Yeah, I like messing with Jamar. because we have a lot of fun. We share a lot of laughs. He's always quick to smile, and he's easy to talk to, and that's a lot of the guys on that team. If you take a moment to talk to them, they're a lot of fun to talk to.
Yeah, a lot of fun indeed. All right, recapping a little bit more of last week just to kind of put an end cap on it all. Couple softball games played last week. Unfortunately for Carey, didn't really come out on the better end of the majority of those. Split with Louisiana Christian there on Tuesday, and then only were able to play one of the games on Saturday and ended up losing to Southeastern by the score of 5-0. That's a good Southeastern team, though, and we'll see how that preps Carey for the long haul of conference play coming up. Still have the NAIA Leadoff Classic coming this weekend over in Columbus, Georgia, and then a Gulf Coast Invitational over in Gulf Shores before picking up with conference play in Mount Vernon on March the 13th. So a little bit of a later start for conference action in the softball world, whereas baseball begins literally this weekend with a doubleheader Friday and then a single game Saturday against Abraham Baldwin. So, Josh, it's here. The stick and ball sports are creeping in with the meat of their season already, and we're just now getting through the better half of February.
Yeah, quick thought on softballs. The one that softball won it back from last week was that game one against Louisiana Christian, but they learned from it. They bounced right back. Southeastern was ranked 19th in the country, got settled in the day before, split with Faulkner, always a solid Faulkner team. And so for them to come out, it was a pitcher's duel for a good 4.5, 5 innings, and then and those runs were late in that game for Southeastern. So, just let's not forget that softball's not even healthy yet.
Right.
They've got at least 3 more ladies that are going to be big-time contributors on this team. So I'm interested to see how they fare. You know, if they can come out 3-2, 4-1 this weekend of those 5 games, that's going to be huge. And then when they get all the pieces back, I still say look out. And they may end up being still a year away. But I still think this team has a chance to be really, really good.
I would agree with you there. McKeem Roberts got SSAC Defensive Player of the Week, by the way. And then also, too, with William Carey taking the Indoor Women's Track and Field Championship, they also had the honor of Kristina Stoyanovich getting championship top scorer from the women's side, and then Jalen Session on the men's side also got top score. So great individual performances this week from those Crusaders as well. And for those of you listening, you can get the full rundown of the upcoming schedule for William Carey Athletics at caryathletics.com. You can also get the replay of this podcast as well at that website. Well, Josh, been a fun one. We'll do it again this same time next week. And so for that, or with that in mind, for Coach Steve Knight, who joined us earlier, for Dalton Stanford, our producer, and for Josh West, my co-host, I'm Caleb Hamill saying until next time, good night, God bless, and go Satyrs.
A SuperTalk Mississippi media production.